When I first decided to study here, all I ever heard or read about was the bad reputation Hastings had been burdened with. 3 years on, however, and the image of the town seems to be changing for the better. Hastings and St Leonard's, for example, recently came 5th in the Times newspaper's list of the most fashionable towns in the UK. I want to explore the town's regeneration plans and find out just what's going on in the area to achieve such a drastic change in reputation.
I think Hastings' reputation is improving a lot.
The whole Hastings area, I think, is on the up. That's the general feeling.
Visually, at least, the town is going through a series of positive transformations. The old town is increasingly becoming a centre for the arts and culture. Landmarks such as Bottle Alley are now the beneficiaries of thousands of pounds of rejuvenation money, while the brand new office blocks in the town centre demonstrate the improving local economy. Although Jeremy is more interested in what's going on slightly further west.
Go down to White Rock now. White Rock Baths, which has been empty for 15 years at least. White Rock Baths, there's now a hive of activity with the construction staff in there, turning the empty building into what will be a BMX centre, probably the best BMX centre nationally. And of course, it's only a stone's throw away from Hastings Pier. Now, when those two sites are completed, you'll have a whole new destination area within Hastings. We've got the old town, we've got the town centre, and that's great. You'll now have a rejuvenated White Rock area.
The positivity is also being felt in neighbouring St Leonard's. I meet with Chris Connolly, leader of the St Leonard's town team, who also feels the area is earning itself a better reputation.
I think the reputation of the town is improving. I think traditionally people would have seen St Leonard's as very much a kind of also-ran, as the part of the borough where people really didn't want to go after dark, where there were issues with crime and drug using and safety. So yeah. I think there's been a seismic shift away from that dark stereotype about almost a kind of place that polite people don't mention, to a place where there's real excitement and energy.
Showing me around the town, Chris points out several new shops, and the streetscape certainly appears to be evolving.
This is a property developer who came from Notting Hill a couple of years ago. This has just opened a very trendy optician. He was in the old town.
This is very trendy.
The person that owns this came from Shoreditch, so she has run businesses in very successful ways in areas that are trendifying.
Perhaps to be expected with the regeneration process still very much in full swing, both St Leonard's and Hastings still have their fair share of problems.
There are issues of street drinking, there are issues where people do not feel safe, there are lots of tensions around policing.
Chris takes me around the 7 streets of St Leonard's, an area that in the past was notorious for drugs and antisocial behaviour. We stop outside Respond Academy, an alternative education provider, where Chris tells me about some worrying recent incidents.
They've had issues in terms of kind of getting their building maintained, about kind of safe access and exit for their students from places like this because of people kind of disposing of needles literally on the doorstep. Yeah. And that isn't something that you would expect in many kind of school settings. Some of the behaviour around here is antisocial, and I mean there were constant issues with accommodation above here. Someone died of an overdose in the building over there. There are 2 or 3 persistently problematic tenants around the corner. And relatively small numbers of people with extreme antisocial behaviour cause deep misery.
Despite these problems, the local residents we met were certain that the area was beginning to lose its bad reputation and that it was changing for the better.
How long have you been here?
8 years.
Has it changed?
It's changing.
There we are.
You can see more people are pouring in and people are buying, so it's changing. Give it 5 years, 6 years, I know here it's going to change drastically.
Moving more inland, I visit North East Hastings, an area that's just been given £1 million to spend as part of the Big Local Partnership. Over the course of the next 10 years, local residents will decide how best to spend this money. I meet Tanya Charman, a local councillor who is also a resident on the Big Local Committee. She takes me around the area, one of the most deprived in the South East, and shows me where the money has already been spent and where it's needed. As we walk around, the physical regeneration required here is obvious, and Tanya tells me what she thinks caused this era of deprivation.
Years ago, you would have had industry based here. I mean, roundabout remains, but the industry doesn't. This was the stills factory. The stills was a really important sort of employer. It employed lots of local people. It had a royal seal. The people that owned it, it got to a point where they just needed to sort of sell it on, really.
As Tanya continued to show me around, it was clear that the area had never fully recovered from the loss of industry all those years ago, and was badly in need of regeneration. Next to the Steels is the site of an abandoned power station. A wonderfully situated bit of land, it's now become little more than a dumping ground. So this is an area that really looks like it has the potential to be something amazing, but at the moment, at least, it's been a little bit neglected. This wasteland is a personal frustration too for Ron Bennett, the chair of the big local North East Hastings.
We could do some really good things with very little money if we could have access to some of that land. Ideally, we'd have homes there and some small-scale business opportunities.
Among these wasted areas, though, there is reason for hope. Let's stand here and get the difference. You've got, on one hand, it's completely wasteland, neglected wasteland, and a real sign of something in need of regeneration. And then, 50 yards away, not even that, you've got a brand new kids' play centre.
Yep.
You know, there are downsides like this, but equally there are just as many, if not more, of these kind of projects taking place.
Projects like this that uplift it.
Thanks to organisations like Big Local, there are more of these kind of community projects happening, and a sense of hope is gradually starting to replace the fear and neglect that residents in this area have become accustomed to. There's a strong feeling that this kind of deeper, social regeneration is more important than how the area looks visually.
We've had quite a lot of physical regeneration. There's still some areas where we need it, like the Stills and the Broomgrove, but really it's about people, it's about the social regeneration.
I think regeneration just based upon physical regeneration of buildings and roads is not a good thing, because that's not what it's about. Regeneration needs to be about people, it needs to have people at its heart.
People are the future of Hastings. We have assets that we need to unlock to make the most of, but if we can't energise the people, and if they can't see a future, a happy future, we will not have achieved what we want to.
And there is a lot of community work and support going on in the area. Tanya takes me to visit a few of the schemes supported by the Big Local, and I get to see firsthand how the project is driving this wave of social regeneration in the area. Big Local's helped you to help the community?
Absolutely, absolutely. I took 114 people over to Brighton, to the Sea Life Centre and the Wheel.
Yeah.
From here.
That would never have gone otherwise?
That would never have gone otherwise.
Tanya then shows me a garden that's been heavily funded by the Big Local, with the aim of encouraging vulnerable local residents to get out and enjoy themselves.
Most of the grants have been for their garden space, because they love their garden space.
Yeah.
A lot of the people who work in the garden do have mental illnesses and mental challenges, and they absolutely love working out here.
Despite the seeming success of regeneration in all of the areas I visited, there's still an acute awareness that regeneration must be managed, or it may end up creating more problems than it initially solved.
You can lose the soul of a place if it's populated by too many people who've only got holiday homes and things.
The risk factor is, of course, that prices then begin to go up, and the people who've lived here through bad times become the casualties. How you adjust that in a market economy, I don't know. It's difficult.
Because of these associated risks, there's a dispute as to whether or not regeneration is even the right answer at all in Hastings' mission for improvement.
What it's most likely to do is put house prices up. It's likely to gentrify a working class town, and that actually isn't good news for the local people.
To say you're against regeneration means you think Hastings is perfectly okay as it is, and we don't need to improve it, and we don't need to make it a better world for especially for the young people coming out of school. There's no way I'll ever line up with that.
Exploring Hastings' regeneration has been interesting for me. There seems to be no doubt that the town is on the right track to freeing itself from the bad reputation that has for too long burdened this town and the people in it. Hastings is a town on the up, isn't it?
Definitely. No doubt about it.
I think there are some very positive signs. We just need to keep our nerve and keep bigging up the place, and I think crucially, this is important, we need to avoid a kind of hint of complacency. The job is by no means done, the job has begun, and we need to maintain the momentum.
There's so much going on to improve the physical look of the town, but perhaps what I've been most impressed with, though, is the deeper, more profound social regeneration that's taking place in Hastings, and the passionate people who want to help drive this change.
I want to see people, experimenting with new interests, engaging in arts, engaging in things like that. that will take them on a different pathway,
Yeah.
a pathway that they may never have had or found.
North East Hastings, we have a vision, and the vision is that at the end of our 10 years, it's going to be a better place to grow up in, a better place to earn a living, a better place to raise a family, better place to grow old.
In keeping with the creative style of this funky seaside town, the only way to properly summarise Hastings' regeneration is through poetry.
Hastings and St Leonard's, the air, the sky and the sea get a lungful of renewal as the tide moves out and in. Hastings and St Leonard's, I hope that you'll agree, make reinvention heard above the droning, boring din of those that think that all places should be welded in the past. Well, those are places sharper than an arrow in an eye. Here's a great revival that is really made to last. That's Hastings.